There's this famous argument of Mary in the black and white room, who has a complete knowledge about human color vision, and so she learns online, presumably in the metaverse, probably using black and white monitor. The complete knowledge about the neuroscience of the redness of red and blueness of blue, and accompanying philosophical arguments about the epiphenomenal qualities of consciousness and so on. And then all of a sudden, the room the door of the room is opened, and Mary finds herself in a field where a lot of flowers are blooming with myriad colors. And then the argument goes, if physicalism was true, Mary would have had a complete knowledge about the color and what it entails. But once she's out in the field where a lot of colorful flowers bloom, she would have gained something else. And this is a famous knowledge argument by Franck Jackson. And this is usually taken as a refutation of physicalism, but physicalism, I think, is not so simplistic. People like Daniel Dennett would say that if Mary had had complete knowledge of the color vision, she would have known what it feels like beforehand, before she enters the blooming field. And as usual with Daniel Dennett's argument, you have this suspicion that he actually might be a really super high-functioning philosophical zombie. One doubts if Daniel Dennett has a genuine understanding of what qualia entails. But going beyond that kind of intuitive rejection of the Dennettian philosophy, we might actually think that physicalism, as we call it, might actually contain some of the phenomenology of consciousness in it. Because when we make arguments in the physicalist framework, we of course use natural languages, and natural languages have semantics, and semantics is arguably a field where intentional qualia rule. So when somebody says that color is invoked in the human consciousness through the neural activities of such a field in the brain, the semantics, the meaning of these statement would, of course, depend on intentional qualia. And the way people argue about computation nowadays seems to be devoid of such a structure of intentional qualia. But at the end of the day, I don't think that is sustainable. People are aware that the artificial consciousness, not artificial consciousness, I should have said artificial intelligence systems that we construct today, although their performance is fairly impressive, they lack a system where semantics are supported in the sense that we understand it. So there's something amiss in the semantics of computer systems. And indeed, every argument since Alan Turing and Claude Shannon and about information and computation have been, trying to avoid, with or without the awareness for it, the whole area of semantics. And in that sense, the conventional understanding of physicalism in terms of computation and numbers and symbols, lack an element where phenomenology of consciousness is properly treated. So if you include that in the definition of physicalism, then we might argue that even within the black and white world of physicalist worldview, there might be some seed for qualia, because qualia cannot be avoided if you treat semantics seriously. So that is one counter-argument against the knowledge argument by Franck Jackson. And other possibly subtly interesting idea is that by experiencing the blooming field herself, Mary might have had the opportunity to renormalize her knowledge. So this renormalization of knowledge idea is, I think, something that is probably interesting because, even when one has this metacognition of the phenomenal qualities of consciousness, like color, the flavor of coffee and nice, the itchiness of the skin and so on. Once you incorporate that into your knowledge system, then there is some, way to treat it as would be appropriate for a physicalist worldview. Once you, incorporate the phenomenology of your experience into the system of knowledge, then it would appear, although some people claim that qualia cannot be really expressed in terms of numbers and symbols and so on, it would be possible to renormalize your knowledge system and treat them as if they are equivalent, information similar to the mass and electrical charge of a particle. So, actually that is how we actually argue about the qualia and intentionality and self-consciousness and so on in our scientific and philosophical papers, because there are no ways to represent qualia directly in these symbolic systems. So when we argue about Mary in the black and white room, in Franck Jackson's knowledge argument, actually we are renormalizing our knowledge so that we can incorporate, every aspect of phenomenology, if possible. So, the great enigma of Daniel Dennett is that although he claims that, qualia can be treated within the physicalist worldview, he seems to have a genuine understanding of what qualia entail. And that is the enigma of Daniel Dennett. And I have a suspicion that probably Daniel Dennett is renormalizing his knowledge so that his knowledge system is actually incorporating all these subtle points about the phenomenology of consciousness. And that is probably why his philosophy is so popular, if not really providing a final solution to the problem of consciousness. So that's my thought about the black and white thought experiment of Mary in this wonderful paper by Franck Jackson.